The interesting thing about this conference was that two things from me. One, they felt relevant again for the first time basically since 2014. Because although everybody, is now expecting, because of the state of the polls, a Labour majority government, maybe a handsome Labour majority government, the fact is Starmer needs to win 126 MP seats to get a majority of one. Bear in mind, Blair were on about 145 in 1997. Cameron won 90 in 2010. It's a huge, huge mountain to climb. And so, the Lib Dems could very easily, particularly with the run they're on in southern England against the Tories, they could easily find themselves in the position of being kingmakers again. So what they're thinking and what they're saying matters again in Westminster for the first time basically a decade. And the other thing that sort of changed by comparison to the last 10 years, and I suppose in some ways does take us back to the 90s with them, is they, for quite a long time, particularly obviously in the coalition years, but before that as well under Labour, they had become the kind of split the difference party, depending on where you were in the country in particular. They ran to the left of Labour in Labour seats and to the right of Tories in Tory seats sometimes. They are now very much an avowedly anti-conservative force, in every single way. I mean, Davey, has been very clear that now, despite the fact, of course, he was in coalition himself and with a Conservative-led government and cabinet, he's not going to do any deals with the Tories under any circumstances, but obviously leaving the door open askance to the Labour Party and working with the Labour Party.
You ruled out a coalition with the Conservative Party. Is a coalition with the Labour Party, is it possible for you? Or did you find the experience of as a party of coalition last time just too scarring, no matter what the parliamentary arithmetic
First of all, you're right to say that I've ruled out working with the Conservatives in any shape or form.
Yeah.
And it's important that people understand why. I fought the Conservatives all my life. I took my seat off them. I fight them in every general election again, normally beating them. I fought them actually in the coalition years. It was difficult, but we fought them in government. And in order to get this discredited Conservative out, we've got to defeat a lot of Conservative MPs. So it would be illogical to then say, having beaten them and fought them, to want to put them back. So we're not going to do that.
Do you think Starmer could be a good Prime Minister?
Well, I do think that he's, from the Labour perspective, he's a breath of fresh air compared to Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn actually caused some problems for the Liberal Democrats. There were lots of people who were minded to vote Liberal Democrat the last election, who didn't like Boris Johnson, who didn't like Brexit, and so on. But they stopped short of voting for us because they were worried about Jeremy Corbyn. And in our target seats, in the Blue Wall that we've talked about across the home counties, in the West Country, where we used to be strong, and I think we will be recovering in the next election, I don't think Starmer scares people. And I think that's quite important in British politics.
Could you imagine working with him?
Listen, I'm not going to focus on what happens after the next election. Here's a really important reason, which I've been explaining to people. I probably have to explain it a few times here, I guess.
Well, this is your 20th interview, we're told, so you probably have done.
One of the problems with the Conservatives is they've taken people for granted. And that's why they're so out of touch with what is happening. And if I sort of start speculating about that sort of thing that you're inviting me to do, I think I'll be accused, rightly, of taking people for granted. And I'm not going to do that.
The Newsagents. This is a Global Player original podcast.